Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. Got another Master Duel video for you all. So it's time for a Kashtira deck profile, and I'm ready to get into it. But if you are new to the deck and don't know the combo lines, then I would definitely advise that you check out the combo guide that I've already posted for this deck. I'm going to go ahead and link it in the description right down below so it's easy to find. You can just open that up, give it a click, and that will show you the basic plays that this deck is able to do. Because I'm going to kind of go into this video assuming that those of you watching it are already familiar with the combo lines. I won't be stopping to explain them fully. But if you would like me to, again, you can check out that Kashtria combo guide that I posted, and you can get that kind of an explanation. So this build here is my day one build. In fact, at the time that I'm recording this, we're just under 8 hours from the pack having been released. So this is like day one build. Although I think it's just day two this is going up. So it's not like it's going to be too drastically different. There are a couple of choices that I've made here that might seem a little bit odd, but I'm going to go ahead and explain those to you. First of all, I'm playing 41 cards, which, whoa, I'm sure some of you are shocked because I almost never play 41 cards. I love to stick to 40, but the reason that we're playing 41 is because of Pot of Desires. When I'm playing Desires, I tend to like going a little bit above 40 because it will actually make it a little bit less likely that we're milling all three of a relevant card, which did happen. The very first game we actually played with this build, well, not even this build, I actually changed it after the first game because literally the first game I Desires and milled 3 unicorns. They were all right next to each other. Now, this is very unlucky, but it is something kind of worth at least thinking about, which is why I added Kashtira Ogre, because I realized, oh, I can't make Theosis plays necessarily because I don't have Unicorn, but Ogre does give us another attribute that's level 7 that we could potentially get off of it, so I decided to test the copy out. I will say, of all the cards in this build that I think are sus, I debated for a second whether or not to say sus for some reason. For all the cards that I think in this deck are sus, I think Ogre is the most sus among them. But I will say that I don't think it's necessarily awful to play one single Ogre either. So it's mainly in here, again, because of Desires and to have another Theosis target if need be. But you could definitely cut it as well. In fact, I'm probably going to end up cutting it at some point for another card. I could even just cut it for a third Desires. I'm kind of thinking about doing that, but we'll see. So the reason I'm playing Desires in the first place is because I think that Kashtira is a deck that sorely needs a consistency engine. I think it's very much lacking that right now. A lot of players, especially TCG players, might kind of forget going into this pack that, you know, we only have one Pot of Prosperity, and we only have one Pressured Planet Wraitsoth as well, and that makes this deck a much less consistent than it is in the TCG. We don't have Terraforming in Master Duel to search your one of field spell either, so as a result, this deck actually has a pretty large, I mean, not a huge consistency issue, but it's got a noticeable one. And if you don't build your deck properly, then you'll find yourself bricking a lot with this deck. And I think that some kind of a consistency engine is needed, whether it's to draw more cards like with Desires, or Extravagance. You could play Pot of Extravagance, but if you do that, I think you need 3 Arise-Heart for your extra deck, and probably 3 Era as well, to be honest. But you could play Extravagance, but I like Desires a little bit more. It's a little bit more flexible in that you can play it at any point during the main phase, and it definitely frees you up for a lot of extra deck room as well. The other kind of consistency engine that I was considering was Small World. The problem with Small World is that there's not any like super clean bridges. There is, I guess if you could play like Droll and Gamma, and you can find some Small World bridges that way, but I don't know, I'm just not, I'm not that up on Gamma, honestly. Every time I try to play it, I feel like it just comes back to bite me in the ass. Unless we are playing a deck like Labyrinth or Pearly that often begins its plays without any monsters on the field, and those are also the most important choke points. Or if it's something like Scareclaw Mathmech, where we can specifically set up the Gamma to be part of our combo line, that makes a difference. But for just your average run-of-the-mill deck, I don't know, I'm not super up on Gamma, to be totally honest. Alright, so other choices here. Oh, I did finally craft a Kurikara Divincarnite. This is a card I'm going to be teching a lot more often moving forward, at least at the beginning of this format, and then I'll see how I feel about it after that. The idea here is that this is not only good against Kashtira because, of course, Arise-Heart will constantly be activating its effect, but this is also very useful against Pearly because this can force your opponent to tribute their Anor, and thus this serves as an out to that card. So, going to be trying that as well. We also are jamming a couple of copies of the new Triple Tactics Thrust. I was initially thinking about playing a cute target for it, like a Pointer of the Red Lotus or a Dimension Barrier, but honestly, the more I thought about it and the more we were kind of hashing out the deck, I say we because I streamed my first games here on Twitch right after doing the pack opening. Kind of realized that, like, I don't know, don't really have the room for it. I would much more rather focus on boosting the overall consistency of the deck to be able to make plays than being like, oh, let me throw in this random one of trap card because it's good if I open thrust, if my opponent plays a card effect, if this card is live, you know, and assuming I don't just lose because I can't combo because I'm using these slots to do cute things like this, right? So decided to just go ahead and focus on that. Yeah, I think otherwise... Oh, I could talk about the rules of some of these other cards in the deck that might not be obvious, right? Forbidden Lance might seem like a bit of an odd choice. This is a very much like a 2014 tech, right? This is a hat format card. But it actually ends up being very, very good in Kashtira because a lot of the cards your opponents are going to try to use to out the Arise-Heart are going to be spell and trap cards, and the Lance can help you protect from that, definitely. Oh, and then Dimension Shifters, that was the other card I wanted to briefly talk about. Dimension Shifter is here because, I mean, really any deck that can feasibly get away with Dimension Shifter without throwing off its own strategy too much should definitely consider playing it, and Kashtira definitely does not need the graveyard in any capacity, so Dimension Shifter becomes a pretty easy disruption tool to add to our repertoire here. But I think that's going to finally cover everything I wanted to talk about in the build. The extra deck as well. The extra deck is made up of a few different things, right? We have a bunch of rank 7s that we can go into for various effects on top of course, Shangri-Ira and the Arise-Heart. Big Eye is for stealing monsters. Red Eye's Flare Metal is a good burn option if you want or need it. Titanic Moth can attack directly, so it's a good Zeus pilot. And Dark Armed is capable of multiple pops in a turn. Just remember that this card cannot attack during the same turn you use that effect. We have a couple of generic link tools as well, like Donner and Underworld Goddess. In addition, we have some cards that might seem a bit odd, like the Fossil Warrior Skull Knight, Garura Wings of Restorant Life, and the Infinitrack Goliath. But the reason that these are here is that they're good by banishing off of Prosperity. We're specifically wanting to attach these to Arise-Heart after we banish them off of the Prosperity, because Arise-Heart can attach cards that are banished, right? So Infinitrack Goliath, for example, once attached to Arise-Heart, will make it so it can't be destroyed by card effects. Garura we can detach from Arise-Heart, so that way we can draw a card. And then Skull Knight we can detach from Arise-Heart to destroy a monster on the field. So if you're wondering why these very random extra deck cards are here, that's why. Okay, now I've covered everything. Now let's break the list down card by card and then see some gameplay. So we are playing 1 Kurikara Divincarnite, 3 Maxx, 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, 3 Kashtira Riseheart, 2 Dimension Shifter, 2 Kashtira Fenrir, 3 Kashtira Unicorn, 1 Kashtira Ogre, 1 Scareclaw Kashtira, 1 Nibiru the Primal Being, 2 Pot of Desires, 1 Pot of Prosperity, 3 Kashtiratheosis, 2 Triple Tactics Thrust, 1 Pressured Planet Wraitsoth, 3 Kashtira Birth, 2 Forbidden Lance, 2 Call by the Grave, 1 Crossout Designator, 3 Infinite Impermanence, and then 1 Kashtira Big Bang. That's going to go ahead and do it for our main deck. For the extra deck, we're on 1 Fossil Warrior Skull Knight, 1 Garura Wings of Restorant Life, 1 Baronne de Fleur, 1 number 11 Big Eye, 1 Red Eye's Flare Metal Dragon, 1 number 28 Titanic Moth, 1 Dark Armed the Dragon of Annihilation, 2 Kashtira Shangri-Ira, 2 Kashtira Arise-Heart, 1 Divine Arsenal, AA-ZEUS Sky Thunder, 1 Infinitrack Goliath, 1 Donner Dagger for Hire, and then 1 Underworld Goddess of the Closed World. It's gonna do it for our list. Let's see some gameplay. Alright, this first game is going to be against Tierpunk, rocking the new Tearlaments Kashtira to help act as another level 7 extender, which I could actually see working. Alright, we're going to be taking the first turn here, and we opened Arise-Heart plus Theosis, which is actually going to be plays. We're going to Theosis for the Fenrir, after normal summoning the Arise-Heart, of course. Going to use Fenrir to add the Scareclaw Kashtira. I do misplay here. I Rise-Hearted, banishing the Big Bang at the wrong time. That was definitely my bad. But what I can do is kind of compensate for that is just go ahead and add the Big Bang back to my hand. While this is not going to be quite a full board, oh, you know what? I remember now. This wasn't a misplay. The reason I played it like this was to play under Nibiru. I don't know why in this one particular game I decided to play under Nibiru. In the combo guide, I show off how that opening, Arise-Heart plus Theosis, can actually end you on Arise-Heart plus Shangri-Ira, plus Fenrir, which is definitely a lot more than what we have here. But again, the way that we did it here is also not the worst either, because it plays around Nibiru. I believe we only did 4 summons, right? We did, let's see, normal summon Riseheart, special Fenrir, special Scareclaw Kashtira, and then, yeah, special summon the Arise-Heart. So, on top of that, we set up the Big Bang, and because we only have the Arise-Heart on the field, this Big Bang is going to effectively act as an evenly match, which is nice. We also have a Lance as well as the Sea and the Ash Blossom, so could play it differently, but again, I don't think this is the worst way to play it. So, the reason I chose not to Ash Blossom the E-Telly here, you might be curious why I didn't do that, is because I figured that my opponent would probably be grabbing a Punk monster off that was going to be the most likely answer. And fun fact, the No Punk Foxy Tune needs to specifically send to the graveyard as a cost. It does not discard. So I knew that my opponent couldn't just use Xamine to add it and then go in for plays here, which is why I let the E-Telly resolve and chose not to Ash Blossom it here. Opponent is going to special summon the Scareclaw, or not the Scareclaw, the Tearlament's Kashtira. I'm going to use the Arise-Heart's effect here to go ahead and steal the Xamine. That will leave my opponent with only the Tearlament's Kashtira and not able to summon a Baronne de Fleur here. Also, I will note that I should have, with my first attach, definitely should have attached the Kashtiratheosis, because then when I detached from the Arise-Heart in order to put back the Xamine, right? Or not put back, to banish face down the Xamine, I could have detached Theosis and then added one of my banished Kashtira cards to hand. So, minor misplay, I did miss out on a card as a result. I was still very much learning the deck at this point, but our opponent's just going to concede right here, and as you can see, we barely had to use any of our disruption at all. This game I wanted to start with because I do think it highlights what a lot of people fear about Arise-Heart, and that's that, oh no, if Arise-Heart's on the field, graveyard strategies are just a total wash. And that is true if Arise-Heart is on the field, but I don't think the existence of Arise-Heart necessarily invalidates graveyard decks as a whole. I do think Kashtira will be very good, but keep in mind that this was a game where, you know, we didn't brick, we didn't get interrupted, so, and we also went first. So those things all have to happen in order for Arise-Heart to shut down your graveyard deck. And even then, there are times where you can open the Imperm and the Kashtira player doesn't have the Lance, right? And then you can just shut off the Arise-Heart, but that definitely was not the case here. This was a pretty gross opening. Let's go ahead and see the next duel here. This one's going to be more of a back and forth. The next game that we're going to see here is going to be against Ninja. Ninja is a deck that's not only been popular since its release in Master Duel, mostly I think because it's in a structure deck and it's really easy to build, honestly. But also it's gaining some popularity even more so now because it does have a relatively good Kashtira matchup. So here my opponent's going to start with the Fenrir, search Fenrir. You'll note that I didn't throw out an Ash Blossom against the Fenrir. I think that it's incorrect to, I'd said before actually, we got the second wave of support, that it's incorrect in my opinion to use Ash Blossom against Fenrir. And I think that continues to be true for a couple of reasons, right? Even if my opponent was on Kashtira, it's much better to use the Ash Blossom against the Kashtiratheosis. This is the best Ash Blossom target when playing against this matchup. But moreover than that, especially when the opponent starts with Fenrir, even though Kashtira is still a very popular deck, and it obviously will be with the new support out, you know, Fenrir is still a card that is very generically good as a staple. So Fenrir does not necessarily dictate that your opponent is playing Kashtira. Opponent's going to follow up with a Rhoda. I decided to use the Ash Blossom here. This was actually a bit of a misplay on my part because my opponent still could have been on Kashtira and been roading for Arise-Heart here. But it would be very weird that they used Fenrir to add another Fenrir in that case, but not impossible. Also, really, any deck that uses Rhoda has a better Ash Blossom target anyway, so yeah. That was a bit of a misplay on my part, but the opponent had a call by, so didn't ultimately end up mattering. Gonna use Hanzo to add the duplication, setting it and another back row. Duplication is going to get flipped up during my draw phase. I'll go ahead and fire off the Maxx as a chain here. That way we get a draw. It's going to be a draw, even though my opponent is summoning multiple monsters, because they're all special summoned at the same time. It counts as one draw for Maxx. So we have, okay, I want to point out a couple of things here, because we have the Desires and the Forbidden Lance we do have, but I meant to say the Triple Tactics Thrust. So what I'm thinking here is that I want to wait on the Desires because I don't want to end up banishing combo pieces I may need or the card I want to thrust for. So Desires is going to be at the bottom of my priority list. The Thrust, obviously our opponent needs to activate a monster effect first, but even once they do, I'm probably going to ultimately end up waiting on activating the Thrust to see what the optimal target ends up being. Because while I could grab a normal spell and activate it this turn, I might not even necessarily need to do that. Anyway, Unicorn's going to add Birth here because we already have the Theosis in hand. We'll activate the Birth and then we'll use Theosis targeting the Unicorn to grab ourselves the Fenrir. Fenrir is going to add Arise-Heart at this point. Now my opponent's Fenrir is going to activate, but that's not that big of a deal because I can just use the Arise-Heart to banish a Fenrir from my deck and then summon that off of the Birth. Opponent is going to use Mitsu to flip my Arise-Heart, or not flip my Arise-Heart, sorry, to negate my Arise-Heart and flip their ninjas, which I did expect, but again, just kind of, you gotta play through the disruption at some point, right? Opponent's going to go off with the rest of their stuff here, using Tobari, the Sky Ninja, to fusion summon the Yagaru Maru here. But this Maxx draw for Scareclaw Kashtira was insane. I think this might have been like one of, if not the best possible cards I could have drawn in a scenario like this. So Scareclaw Kashtira is mostly used as an extender, but fun fact, this card can attack while in defense mode and use its defense points to battle with. Also, fun fact, you get to negate any monster effect you battle into with any Kashtira monster while this is in play. And this is actually going to be insane against ninjas here. Oh, we do get another draw there. I'm going to use Birth to banish a few of my opponent's cards in the graveyard. They will still have another card to banish, but that's fine. So the Yagaru Maru is going to banish the Birth here. Oh, and the other reason the Scareclaw Kashtira is actually just the most insane draw I could have gotten here is because to summon it, I need to banish a Kashtira card out of my graveyard, right? Well, I can banish the Theosis, use that to add the Birth back to my hand, and I haven't used Birth's other effect, so I can use that to then special summon my banished Fenrir here. So, again, Scareclaw Kashtira, oh my god, insane top deck off the Maxx there. Alright, like I said, activating Birth now, using Birth's effect to summon the Fenrir, and I'm just going to move to battle phase. Because I can't OTK this turn anyway, I'm going to move to battle phase and just clear off my opponent's board, and this Scareclaw Kashtira is just negating any possible effects I could have activated here. It's so funny seeing the defense mode monster attack, but that will not be an uncommon sight moving forward. So I just decided to use the Thrust to set the Big Bang here, which was like, I should just set an Imperm. It really wasn't that good of a set, but you know, it's all good. We could just make a 3-material Arise-Heart here. Set 3 cards, and I actually should have used Arise-Heart's effect. That was a misplay. I should have used it to put back this last face-down card, but opponent's going to special Fenrir, move to battle, trying to get rid of the Arise-Heart, but I have the Imperm, so that's not going to work. This will also has a bonus shut down whatever this face-down card is for this turn if that ends up being relevant. Using Arise-Heart to attach to Theosis, that way we can detach it later in order to add back one of our banished Kashtira cards. Oh, if you see some kind of weird playing here, I think, if I recall correctly, I was also really low on time, like on my timer at this point. That's the thing about the Arise-Heart's mandatory effect, is that it'll actually eat a non-zero amount of your timer. That is something worth noting. You gotta make sure that you're factoring that in. But yeah, the Iron Digger will not destroy the Arise-Heart thanks to the Forbidden Lance here. And then during my opponent's end phase, I'll just get rid of this card they set so they can't respond with it. And because I detached a Theosis, I get to return a Kashtira card from my banish to my hand. I think it might have been better to grab Fenrir, but again, I was pretty low on time at this point, so I'm just kind of attaching anything here. And the first thing I see, I'm attaching at this point with the Arise-Heart. Alright, we'll use the Arise-Heart's effect on the Fenrir. Opponent's going to chain the ninjutsu art, because I did forget that the Iron Digger does actually cause the Fenrir to be treated as a ninja monster. Had I kept that in mind, I think I would have played this differently and made sure to play around that, but oops, little misplay on my part. So the Geo is going to get to flip down the Arise-Heart here, which, oh God, this is like my least favorite card, and not this. Well, I'm not a huge fan of Unicorn necessarily either, but Geo the Gravity Ninja is like one of my least favorite cards to play against, honestly. I kind of hate it even more than Shangri-Ira in some ways, because here's the thing, right? If you get rid of the Shangri-Ira, at the very least, you get your zones back, but getting rid of Geo will not allow me to flip up this Arise-Heart again. Yeah, Geo the Gravity Ninja just permanently makes the card stay flipped down forever, which is so annoying. And I'm sure a lot of people are like boo-hooing me right now because it was a Arise-Heart that got turned to face down, but it's all good. We're going to use the Ira to pull the Unicorn out of the deck because we already have the Fenrir. Opponent is going to fusion summon by attributing 2 of the ninjas, and they'll flip Fenrir down with the Green Ninja, but thankfully Green Ninja, unlike Geo, does not permanently lock the monster into staying face down, so we just flip that back up. I'll normal summon the Ash Blossom here to go into Baronne de Fleur. And I think once I pop the Ninja, I actually have lethal already, but I'll use Birth anyway. But then, yeah, my opponent just concedes here anyway. So, had a very back and forth duel with Ninja there. And they actually might have been able to pull ahead in terms of an advantage in the long run, were it not for, again, that Scareclaw Kashtira top deck was so good. Oh my god, it was very juicy. Let's go and see the next game here. Alright, next one's going to be a Kashtira mirror match. Funnily enough, I did not run into that many Kashtiras in Diamond, which is kind of shocking, while I was doing these first games, not only with Kashtira, but also with Gishki Sprite as well. These, I've not seen it much on ladder. I don't know. It's interesting. Could just be my luck. Or not my luck, but... Well, yeah, my luck, pretty much variance. But here my opponent does have a small world bridge. They are bridging the Maxx, using Gamma to go into the Fenrir there. Now they are specialing the Unicorn, using that to grab the Theosis. Not really sure why my opponent did that small world bridge, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, because I feel like you'd rather have Maxx than just another random Fenrir in hand, right? This Fenrir in hand does nothing. I mean, it might make a good follow-up play if needed, but yeah, that was a bit odd. I'm not really sure why we, I mean, I guess it makes sense that we got rid of Maxx because we can't use Maxx while Arise-Heart's up, but I feel like we could have gotten maybe an Ash Blossom or something instead. Or I guess not with Gamma, but I'm assuming my opponent would have had some kind of a bridge there. And yeah, I kind of failed to point out the big rock in the room, but this is definitely why you want to consider going for the short Arise-Heart line. You know, I've seen some people kind of clown on, oh, why would you ever just go for a 3-mat Arise-Heart when you could end on so much more? Well, I mean, again, this big meteor is why. The Nibiru is very much a threat to a board like this, and I mean, as you can see, Kashtira does not really have much ways to recover from a Nibiru. Once it gets nibbed, it becomes very difficult to bounce back, as you tend to use pretty much all of your effects to go into the main combo line, and if you had no monsters, it would be one thing, but again, the token on the field makes it so that, you know, it's hard to play. Now, to be fair, you want to be mindful of when you use Nibiru as a Kashtira player as well. Here, I have no problems using it because I have Birth. Birth will allow me to normal summon the Unicorn. I can use Unicorn to grab Theosis, and I have plays. Easy peasy. But it is something you want to be careful about, you know, when you are doing your plays there. Like, there are worlds, there are certain hands where I might have considered not nibbing. Although, to be fair, I'd probably not. I'd probably rather just have the nib down. Although, you gotta make sure you have an out to the token as well. I mean, that's just a general Nibiru tip as opposed to a, you know, Kashtira specific tip. But the main thing I wanted to make sure that I did here was that I played under Nibiru as well, and I'm pretty sure we did that here. Kashtira is 1, Theosis for Fenrir is 2, Search for Arise-Heart, Special Arise-Heart is 3, Big Eye is 4, and then Big Eye is going to take control of the token. Taking control of something does not count as a summon, so because our opponent Maxx, like I said, I wanted to make sure that I was mindful to play under Nibiru as well. So that's why I kept this game. That's why I wanted to show this one, because it shows on both sides how keeping Nibiru in mind as the Kashtira player is very important. Now, I will say that generally speaking on turn 1, I think it's probably still right to go for the extended end board where the extended combo line where you do Fenrir, or you do Ira plus Arise-Heart plus Fenrir or Unicorn. But again, there is a time and a place to consider just going for the Arise-Heart and only doing it in 4 summons. And, you know, obviously you can't be a mind reader. I think, again, generally speaking, it's probably better to do the extended line, but again, definitely worth noting. And, you know, on the follow-up play here, especially under Maxx, we definitely want to keep the Nibiru in mind. All right, we have one more duel to show. Let's go ahead and jump straight into it. All right, our final duel is going to be against Dogmatica Mikanko. So I think this was the game where we went second, if I recall correctly. And we actually ran into multiple Mikanko decks during this climb where they end up going first after winning the coin flip, which is interesting. But this looks like a really, really good going second hand, right? We have Kurikara Divincarnite, we have Ash Blossom, we have multiple Imperms, and then we have the Unicorn to combo off, which is all we need for plays. So I'm going to Imperm the Diviner. The reason I did it is because I had multiple Imperms, and I felt safe doing so. I'm going to let them add off the Ash Blossom because I figure that the deck will have a later target, which they do in the Aberesc here, the equip spell. Opponent does have an Nadir Servant to follow up with, sending the, what is that, Titanic Clad in order to get the Fleur-de-Lis. I should have considered using Imperm against the Ecclesia here, but ultimately opted not to. They can search a punishment, that's fine. Alright, Kashtira Unicorn's coming down, adding the Theosis. We're going to go ahead and activate the Theosis to summon the Fenrir. Fenrir F. Scareclaw Kashtira is also a very, very good draw here. Arise-Heart F to summon itself, now overlaying the Unicorn and the Fenrir. Going for the Shangri-Ira. We're going to use Arise-Heart's effect to banish the Birth here, because we can get that back by banishing the Theosis in our graveyard when we special summon the Scareclaw Kashtira. Alright, gonna summon the Kashtira, and as you can see, I made a huge misplay in this game. This was one of the earlier duels, earlier than the ones we saw before, so I'm going to kind of use that as my excuse, but I totally forgot that this card could... I forgot this card did everything that it does. Everything that made Scareclaw Kashtira so great in that ninja duel, I just didn't even realize it did when I was first playing this deck, so... Yeah, if I had summoned this in defense mode, I actually would have been so good here. I could have gone into the Arise-Heart and then battled, negated the Ecclesia effect, run over all their stuff, but... I guess, no, I couldn't have gone into the Arise-Heart, that's right. But, yeah, I could have run over their stuff here. Oh my god, it's such a misplay. I could have run over the Fleur-de-Lis, actually. Forget the Ecclesia, I could have gotten rid of the Fleur-de-Lis here. Huge misplay on my part, but, you know, we'll persevere. We'll carry on. I'm going to go ahead and summon the Fenrir during the standby phase. That way I can have the potential banish up. Opponent's going to drop into their Ecclesia and add the Dogmatica Matrix. I should have used this Imperm here. I was really greedy in holding this Imperm, as my opponent's going to move to battle phase now. And it's like, yeah, I do get to use it against the... Well, I don't even need to use it against the Fleur-de-Lis. I could have just banished this. Oh my god, this duel was fraught with misplays. But, you know, I still wanted to show this duel for a couple of reasons. We're going to see the other one actually towards the end, but it definitely pays to show misplays because now you all don't necessarily have to make these misplays as a result. Alright, opponent's going to use the Ohime to get another Aberesc there. Aberesc is coming down and is going to target the Fenrir. Going to use the Birth to banish some of my opponent's Mikanko cards as they activate, and also lock up another one of those zones with the Ira. The Fenrir will get bounced. The Kuli is coming down, which will prevent targeting. Opponent's going to set a couple of back row, and then pass back over to me. Looks like Mikanko Rivalry is coming down during the draw phase. The Axe of Fools will negate the Shangri-Ira. But I can still use the Birth to normal summon the Unicorn here. Opponent's going to Dogmatica Punishment, however, sending the Entis to get rid of the Birth. Which is fine because now I can turn the Ira to attack mode. battle into the Huli, and then overlay into the Zeus. Of course, being an Xyz-based deck, we can't forget that Zeus is always going to be an option. So, Rivalry will banish itself to wheel the Axe of Fools back to hand. That's fine, I can still force my opponent to use the Axe of Fools and chain the Zeus to that. Because while the Axe of Fools is still on the chain link, it won't have targeted the Zeus yet, so the Zeus won't be negated. Alright, opponent's got 3 cards left to make plays with. We do, I think, yeah, we know one of them is Ohime, so they're going to use that to add the Great Mikanko Ceremony, pitching one of their Dogmatica cards, activating Great Mikanko Ceremony to summon the Ohime. Alright, now the Hare is going to add the Mikanko Fire Dance, and Aberest gets to pull another Huli out of the deck. Huli is going to add Mikanko Promise. And now the Great Mikanko Ceremony can send the Dance. Oh, I thought this was the game. Oh, that's with, I'm sorry, I was thinking of a different duel. I was thinking of a different duel with another deck. But we'll go ahead and see that another time. Another good Mikanko game that I want to show in that one. But if I'm recalling correctly, maybe I just didn't save that duel. I really hope I did. But in any case, again, wanted to show this duel even though we lost it because I can highlight some of the misplays again so that you don't have to make them, hopefully. But that will go ahead and do it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed these games. I hope you all found this video helpful. Without further ado, I'm just going to go ahead and move on now to the outro. Alright everybody, that's going to do it for this video. Thank you for watching it all the way to the very end. That means a whole lot to me, and it's also a fantastic way to support the channel. And if you're interested in supporting the channel in other ways besides YouTube, there are plenty of ways to do that. If you check out the description below, you'll find a bunch of links down there. One of them goes to my Patreon. You're actually seeing the names of everyone subscribed to the Patreon on the screen right now. So if you're interested in getting your name in the credits here at the end, if you want to see more daily Master Duel content, or if you're interested in one-on-one private coaching sessions, I offer all of that on Patreon. I also stream live on Twitch. Feel free to go ahead and click that link and follow and or subscribe there. I also have the Discord community, if you want to follow that link, where hundreds of duelists have already signed up. Free to join, and you can just come hang out, talk about the game, and chill in general. Final link that's going to be in the description is my Twitter. You can follow that if you want some more notifications of what's happening with the channel. So, all in all, thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you have a fantastic day.